I'm thinking something like... My sweet, beautiful angel, my friend.
Hi, lover.
My love. You're wearing the bracelet that I got you.
Yes. Have you not ever seen me wear it? Because I wear it often.
Oh, no, I haven't. I've been looking.
Oh, really?
But that's okay. I'm not like, she hates it. I'm just like, when will it come? No. And I saw it today. I was like, oh, she put it on.
Yes. I had a blue shirt on.
Oh, lovely.
So anytime I have blue on, I put it on. But I literally was thinking this morning, I was like, I should just have this in, like, with everything.
Oh, I really like it.
I should just add it because those are like my base.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then that adds color. But I'm like, I think I want to add this to my base.
Oh, they're so pretty.
Thanks. Amber gave me this pretty blue. What was it? Do you remember the name of it?
Appetite? I don't really know. Appetite, maybe?
Yeah, that sounds.
Yeah, we're going to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. How are you?
I'm so good. I was tired as fuck, but our guest today was so wonderful because
Energy was really good.
What now? The energy was good. Mm-hmm. It was like walking past flowers and be like, just like a good scent that just makes you take a big breath.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times every episode is great for its own reasons, but a lot of times my favorite episodes are when we talk about really hard things, because that's kind of why I started the podcast, to see comedians get to that different side. But with this, I really think it's a great episode because there's a lightness.
Yes, but it also was like, here's a layer and here's another layer and another layer, where it was just like plot twisting all over the place, and it was fun.
Yeah,
but also talking about real topics, real things we all deal with.
Truly. Yeah. And he had great perspectives.
He wasn't skimming over it with the funny.
Right.
He was able to get into it with the funny.
That's what makes a good episode.
Yes.
Across the board.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Not skimming over it with funny. Yeah, that's so... I'm just realizing it. Kind of like I just realized racism in this episode. Yeah. Which you'll get to hear me. I didn't know racism was a thing before today. And so that was probably my favorite part.
Yes. Changing the world.
Yeah.
One episode at a time.
Exactly. This episode features Zavior Phillips. He's wonderful. His mom, Mariah, is a big fan of the podcast and supporter. Yeah. And she was love her. She was here, which was part of the good energy. Literally every time Zavier's in town, he'll walk into the green room and people will be like, "Where's your mom?" And he's like, "Okay, well, she's out there. I'm also here." I love that whole family, truly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I said this, but y'all were laughing, so you didn't hear me. But I was like, "Will you adopt me?"
Oh,
the family.
That's so
it's
sweet.
Just such sweet. They can go through the hard stuff, but they all just go through it together.
Yes.
It was really sweet.
Yeah, he's like, after we brush our teeth together, we go vote together, and then...
I loved it. It was sweet.
Yeah. Y'all are really going to enjoy this. Oh, let me say my dates, if that's cool, before... See, this will come out in September. So, hello, Darcy. September 24th... I have my stand-up get-down show at Zany's Nashville Lab. September 29th, I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina at the Improv. October 10th, I'm at Milwaukee at the Improv. I also have October 23rd is my stand-up get-down at Zany's Nashville. November 20th is stand-up get-down at Zany's Nashville. December 18th is stand-up get-down at Zany's Nashville. And I'm sure I'll be adding a lot more dates, so sign up for my text list in my bios. Go to my website, scroll around, buy things. Just fucking...
Just be supportive.
Just anything that you can literally think of doing outside of showing up at my front door, please do.
We appreciate you.
Yes, so we truly do. Thanks for listening. We have the best fans of the podcast, the best supporters, truly. Enjoy this episode, y'all. Thanks.
That's crazy. I've had that happen with like friends where like they'll order like Uber Eats and then afterwards the people will text afterwards and be like, Hey, by the way, you're pretty beautiful when you picked up that Taco Bell at the door. It's like, oh my God.
Wait, that's me at my worst. Thank you.
Yeah. No one looks good getting their Taco Bell at the door. That's crazy.
Oh my God. We're going, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. We just eased right into it.
You guys are smooth.
That's how we do it.
That was smooth. I feel
So
like
tell us
it's like
about your
you were
dad.
detectives who just investigated, like got me to confess. And I was like, I didn't even know we were going. That was crazy.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks,
That was
Zavior.
good. Yeah. This was great.
Great show.
Hi.
Hey.
You're so wonderful.
Thank you so much.
You-
I feel the same.
Oh,
But I'm wonderful. No, I'm kidding. You're incredible.
I want to know how you got so, because how many siblings do you have?
I'm one of 5.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
And how many sisters?
2.
All right. You give the energy of growing up
up.
in a house with all women.
That's actually the best compliment that you could give.
Yeah,
I'm
it
honored
is.
that I give that energy.
Yeah.
You do.
Is it the pink shirt? No. It's the pink shirt, yes.
No, it's an energy of like, when a man can just talk to women, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you've been around them.
But without
yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
be
yeah.
anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
No funny word, like comments or things. You just,
Yeah,
you can just
yeah.
You're
carry on a
comfortable. You're
conversation.
not scared.
Yeah.
Yes.
I actually feel like I'm probably more comfortable with, in terms of like being like emotional and actually getting like vulnerable and stuff. I definitely, like my whole life, all of my actual like best friends have always been women. Yeah.
Wow. Even as a kid.
Yeah. Even like in high school, my best friend was a girl.
And what, like, you're like growing up in your family, was emotions just like open, like being open?
We definitely were open. We weren't super like, it is funny because everyone who sees my family like will even comment on the, like, we're a big, like, you notice us when we're all a unit. And one of my friends one time commented, because we also like all will like go to the gym together. So it's like 7 of us at the
What?
My friend was like, are you the Power Rangers? What is going on? And we're just like, all just like athletic. But we also are very like loving, like all of us would answer the same exact way. The like favorite possible thing is like a game night with family. Like that is the best possible situation. But it's funny because when I think about like actually being like sharing like deep things, that is a more recent addition. Like we were so loving and caring, but I feel like I wasn't always, and not that I felt like I was like hiding many things, but I just didn't necessarily, I don't know. There's like a small element of like, we're just like really happy all the time and didn't like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I just felt like there wasn't a need for those like big conversations, but it felt like that was never as like prevalent, you know, growing up.
What makes you say it's like happened recently?
I think it's been, well, actually, so my parents got divorced as of like 4 years ago now, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Did you not know this? Because you know what's funny?
I feel like I'm going through it right now. I thought you were going to say 4 months ago. No way.
Well,
are you sure?
Well, you were just painting this lovely picture, and I was going to be
Well,
like,
no,
you know, you're on a trauma podcast, right? When did it happen?
Dude.
It was 20, because it actually happened. It happened.
COVID.
They announced, well, yeah, it was in 2021. So I
Okay.
guess, 3 years ago. And it happened the same week that my previous relationship had ended.
Oh.
It
What?
was at like the same exact time. Yeah. It was.
How
it
did
was a lot
that
of
affect you? Like how did those things
the divorce
coincided?
or I think one cause, basically my parents, when they decided they were getting a divorce, which is also funny, and we can get to this, I'm sure we will, but they're now dating, so
Plot twist. Wait, your
That's
mom, you're
probably
in your,
nothing.
that's
Thank
your
you,
mom
guys.
That's
down.
probably
Your mom.
nothing.
We need to get your mom
my
up
mother's
here.
downstairs,
Start
yes.
telling us.
who's now dating her ex-husband.
Okay, that
Yes.
makes sense because,
So get her in this chair.
bro.
Yeah.
How
so,
does that feel? Seeing him get back, because it's like you
Yeah.
have to go through the separation thing
Yeah.
and get your brain settled on that, and then
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I'm, in terms of how I like view their, like, especially because I don't live in the house anymore. I live in LA, so I'm
Yeah.
not seeing their relationship on the day to day. And
yeah,
like my perspective of their relationship obviously has always been as my parents. And I think in that view, like they've always been incredible. Like they perfect teammates and like partners, and as they parented, like no complaints, incredible. And so I think that view hasn't really changed at all. It's just their relationship with each other. And so I ultimately I don't see most of it. And two, I'm like, if you're happy, then you do that. Like it's hey. when they first were talking about it, I was like, well, maybe let's think about it. Because I don't know if you remember, but a few months ago, you actually decided to kind of end this legally. So,
it's like a big deal.
Before we get the government involved again.
Wait, they started dating not too long ago after they got divorced?
They got divorced in 2021, middle of 2021, I believe, and then started dating. They told me, at least, in December of last year, I believe.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, we got. How did you feel? So it was the same week that you broke up with your girlfriend.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. I think because that whole situation was that relationship that I had was good. It was like a 4-year long relationship. Oof. It was in college. But it was long distance.
Yeah.
And because she went to a school in New York and I was in school in Chicago.
All
but
4
it was like
years?
We met at the end of my first year. So for 3 years in college, and then COVID, and then basically like we're living together.
Yeah, COVID like
with some friends. So we went from long distance to like quarantining together.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But even through that though, like the relationship was good. It was a great relationship, and we like it, everything was for the most part like fine. I think it was just like we realized that we had been together through this really important time in our lives, but also still needed to like grow as individuals.
Yeah.
And so it was just kind of that realization. I think actually seeing my parents get divorced, seeing the most important relationship in my life end after, that's like a lot of what I mirror relationships off of, obviously, is based off of them. So seeing like that happen, and I probably, at least in my mind, would attribute part of that to the fact that my parents got married really young, and my mom got pregnant when she was like 20, and then got married. So you can do the math. And so just doing the math of like, okay, they were together. If they didn't get pregnant, if they didn't get married really young, did they have time to really, become their true selves before entering this relationship and before, parenting? And that was like their number one priority.
Yeah.
So I think I took a step back and looked at my own relationship and just realized I still had growth to be made as an individual outside of a relationship.
Whoa.
That I wanted to be sure of before I like get into like the relationship.
So it was already like you were already talking about it, and then they were like, "Hey, we're getting divorced," and you're like, "Oh, this is giving me perspective. I do want to break up with my girl."
We weren't really I think there were moments where we were like, something's a little off. I think, at least from my perspective, it definitely felt like we had kind of started plateauing in terms of the relationship and in terms of the growth that we could make together. Like there was just stuff like some codependency and like just pieces of like being in a relationship that it's hard to fully work on that within yourself when you do have this other, like I'm living with this other person, seeing them every day. So working on who I am as an individual outside of them is pretty difficult.
Yeah.
And so, it got to the point where, hey, I'm okay. Thank you. That is so sweet, Paul. I think just getting to the point where it's like, if whatever happens and we go our separate ways and then become the people that we need to be to get back together, like that's obviously was always a possibility or whatever, but was just like, I think we need this time to really grow into our own.
Good for
selves.
you.
Truly.
Yeah, that's hard to make a decision. It's easy when it's like something bad happened.
I kept being like, I wish the relationship wasn't great and I didn't like have so much love for her and her family and all. Like it was weren't too many complaints, but yeah.
It's cool that like I feel like most people, the majority of people, especially comics, did not have a healthy. You were like, oh, my parents' relationship was the most amazing example, and you.
That's rare.
It's so rare.
Yeah.
Just in humanity.
Yeah. And like, what was that? What do you mean you like modeled how you did relationships after them?
Yeah, I mean, I think something that I always appreciated so much about my parents was that their priority was like making it work, and like obviously like they got married really young, were very poor and didn't have any, and just then spat out a bunch of kids. And so, but still were like there never was a time where it was like, oh, we can't make this work. Like it was, and they always pushed us to do every extracurricular, and we would have like weekly meetings where we'd be like, okay, you're going to take the car here, you're going to leave the car in the parking lot and leave the key on the wheel, and then you're going to take it and you're going to drive your brother to rehearsal, and then you're going to go to soccer practice. Like we were there was one time where we all went to different schools and all played soccer in a different city.
What?
And like
With
still
one
had
car.
other things. No, we had like, I think by that point we probably had like 3 cars in the family,
Okay,
but
cool.
we were like had to orchestrate everything and work out everything. But yeah, it was like just that energy of like just like teammates first and foremost. I think is like the energy that I try to bring into
That's beautiful.
my relationships.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah. Do you feel that? Do you miss that now that you're out in LA, or do you still feel that like connection with them?
I definitely still feel like I love coming home because it's like immediately back to that. And it's immediate. We always have, a game night when we're home, and we always like are just always hanging. Like even when we flew in pretty late from New York, like last week, and then got back, and then we're just like sitting on the couch, and it was like me, my girlfriend who came with me, and then my little brother and my dad were just like, it was like 10, 11 p.m. We were just like sitting on the couch, just like hanging out, just like talking about stuff. And it's like, it was just like small things like that where I'm like, yeah, anytime I come home, that's the vibe, is like, we're going to come home. We're just going to like crash and just like hang and talk for a little bit on the couch, and then we'll go to bed. And then and just like, because when I'm away, sometimes I'll mute the family group chat just because I'm not needed for any of those. They're like, who's picking up Isaiah from soccer practice? I'm like, okay, I don't need to be involved in this. But it's nice to come back home and like unmute that, and like then the text is like, oh, what are people doing today? Oh, who wants to go play pickleball? Let's go do this thing. We went to the farmer's market. We voted together. Just like
Stop.
Cute. Yeah.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
This is wild.
I know.
Yeah. It is funny because kind of you mentioned it earlier, but like so many people in comedy are like, I had to be a comedian because I came from so much trauma and all of this, and I'm broken. And people often are like, why? Like,
where does your funny
why
come
are you
from?
funny?
Yeah.
It seems like you had a good life.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I believe that I'm very, it's also interesting because I also think that I have a very optimistic, so I'm probably telling these things, someone else could have lived the same experience and had a less optimistic outlook, but I just am a very optimistic person.
I love that.
And so I'm just like, anything that's bad, like bad things happen, but like,
So back to until more recently, have you been opening up more in your emotional side? What is that? What contributed? Was it your parents getting divorced and the breakup that contributed to that, or?
Yeah, I think at that point it was like they, any difficulties they had in their marriage or things like that, they kept pretty private. But then when they decided they were getting a divorce, then they were talking to us about it. And I think that opened up. There were definitely some pros and cons to that.
Yeah.
But I think that did in some ways like open up the conversation in terms of like really getting into like the core of like how you're feeling and sharing the more like negative emotions.
And that your siblings and you were able to share too?
Yeah.
Wow.
We definitely, there was a time, I remember there's a time a few years before they got divorced where they were like discussing kind of getting like separated or something. And then I remember that was the first time that we had ever like gone to therapy, and it was like all the kids went to therapy together.
You guys go everywhere. This is wild.
Yeah, we roll pretty deep. My son's actually in the next room.
That is true. Your mom's here today.
My mother literally did. We actually rolled. That's because we needed a car to get from here to here. You can't just have one person taking one car to go somewhere. But yeah, we went to therapy together. I remember that in particular because my little brother, who famously he's much better at it now, but he used to just like not speak. That was like his like thing.
When he was
And-
upset?
or just in general. I mean, he was often upset, so that was probably part of it. But just because he was a little monster, I also think it was because. Sorry, I'm going on so many tangents.
No,
but
you're good.
I think because we're very like loud and we're a very like we all like have our thing. For him growing up, I think there's a lot of pressure of like, what's your, we're already
So his
doing
thing
these.
was being quiet.
So that's how he got attention was by not engaging. Because then people would be like, come on, talk to me. They'd really want to get it out of him. Versus like me, I will talk to you immediately.
Yeah. So you're in therapy together, and you were saying that.
Yes, we were in therapy together, and I remember at that time I remember it being like a weird thing because that wasn't necessarily like how we communicated. Like just like sharing these kind of feelings was not as much of the type of conversation because we are so like happy-go-lucky, things are really good and positive that sharing like these negative emotions felt weird at the time. And I think partially, I think a big shift was when parents got divorced. One, them sharing that with us, and then us now kind of being adults and having this huge thing happen to us, discussing within each other, like within the siblings of like, how do you feel about this? What are your thoughts? And so now that's opened up those type of conversations.
What? That's dope.
Do the kids have your own group chat? Separate
do.
from the parent? Okay.
We do.
Sick.
I don't think we use it. We don't use it very often, but we do
Yeah.
Hell
have it.
yeah.
Yeah. It is because we are very like close. We don't like text or like whatever like very often when we're like away. But it's like as soon as we're back, then it's like right back.
Oh, that's so
kind of
beautiful.
I know. I don't know what that's like, but it sounds wonderful.
That's so nice.
I know. It makes me happy to hear about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
pretty good.
sweet.
Yeah.
When you were like saying like sharing emotions in therapy was weird, how did you feel those negative emotions before? Did you just not think about them or like how'd you process them before?
That yeah. I think I used to like I said, I am a very optimistic person. I think that used to come across like now I just process them and I'm aware of them and I just do that. But I think I used to kind of ignore it. And my best friend in like growing up, Shelby.
Hi, Shelby.
Hey, Shelby. she will fess up to this. That one time, because she knew that like times where like my parents were kind of like on and off for like the time that we were separated and stuff. And then I'd come into school the next day and I'd feel like happy Zavior making jokes and all this stuff. And she knew that like stuff was going on. And she was like, how are you still? And so she did call me an emotionless robot at one point,
Wow.
which felt intense.
Yeah.
For sure. But I think there used to be, I even used to kind of like internalize that a little bit and like think that maybe one day I would like blow up or like maybe I am pushing all this in one day that's just going to pop and I'm going to, and that used to be a fear of mine. But I think at this point I have gone through it enough times and like have put in the work to like process it that I'm just, I just know that because my perspective has always been if something happens, like if I can change it, then I will do what I can to change it. And if I can't, then I have to accept that because you can change it. And I think that used to be a more like passive thing where I just was like, okay, well, I can't change it, so I'm not going to care about it. But now I'm more in the mindset of like, I can't change it, but I can adapt it. There's still processing that needs to be done, even if you can't change.
Yeah, you need to deal with how you're feeling about it. I think one of the things I work mainly with like adult individuals, and I want to know like what it looked like in their house growing up. Like, did you see your parents argue? And if it's like, no, we were always happy, then how did you learn? Then my question is, how did you learn how to have a disagreement?
Yeah.
If it was always happy and not talking about the hard stuff, how do you learn how to do that? And a lot of times you don't until you're kind of forced to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny is because I definitely have, they definitely would like argue, but for the most part, they'd argue over like really dumb things. And I think that helped me realize early on that like it's dumb to argue over a dumb thing. Like I would actually like make fun of them when they were arguing about dumb things. Like one time they were arguing, it was about like the dishes or something, and they were like arguing over who was gonna do the dishes. And then I walked downstairs with a notepad and a pen, and I just sat there like right beside them and started like writing. And they were like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, I said, I'm just taking notes on how to have like a useless argument or something. And they were like, oh, okay.
Wow.
So I was like,
That's good.
When your kids fucking roast your ass.
yeah.
I know.
I think like seeing them and being like, why are you arguing right now, helped me like when I grew up, and then like now being in relationships and stuff, being like, oh, it is dumb to, after hearing not saying my parents are dumb, love them. Love you, mother. But like, you know, it's there's no point in arguing over those things. I saw it in them, and so I was like, I don't want to bring that into like my relationships and stuff.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
What about? I'm just curious.
Learned what
on this.
not to do.
What
Sorry.
now?
Learned what not to do.
Right.
A lot of times, yeah.
And then when it was like something that you thought like it was a serious argument, how did that go?
Did you ever see those?
Or no,
I feel
like
those
with your
were more-
relationships.
Oh, like with my
Yeah.
personal? How did those go? I mean, I feel like there are not often, like I don't have many like serious arguments in my relationships. Like it's pretty, like we like talk about like deep things, and we like do get into it, but I haven't found, there's not been many times where we've like really, really like gotten into something where we've really not been able to see eye to eye. I think also I try to go into the situations, and like my girlfriend and I, we've talked about it many times about like when going into a disagreement or an argument, like going into it with the mindset of like, we are a team. Like we're not trying to like win the argument. If one person wins the argument, then we're both losing.
Yeah.
And so
That's very healthy.
Truly.
Well, thank you.
That's what we try to teach. Like, yeah, it's about the solution, like solving a solution together.
Yeah.
It's not about can one feel safe and can one feel heard? It's like, how do you feel safe and heard?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Absolutely. So, I mean, I think in my relationship, like we are pretty good at, there have been a few times where I'm like, okay, but you're just, what are you saying right now? You know? I
hear you and I hate it.
I see you, you're valid, but I don't have to like it. I think that, there have been a few times, but then I think, even then, I also don't, I'm not a very like confrontational like person. So one, I usually wouldn't let something get that big where it would need to be a big confrontation. And then even if it was, I would approach it in the most lighthearted way possible to bring it up. So I'm like, hey man, I do a lot of finger guns during my.
I'm upset with you.
Hey, quit that, Buster. So,
How long have y'all been together?
It'll be a year in like 2 weeks. or something.
Amazing. Okay, cool. You mentioned that like people were like, "Why are you funny? Because you are perfect."
And that's a quote.
Everyone says that. Yeah. Did you go through like hard shit in school? Were you bullied? What's the answer?
You're actually just still asking.
Yeah.
Where's the drama?
Yeah.
I was bullied when I was in kindergarten, I skipped to first grade. And my trauma is I'm too smart. Sorry. I'm too smart and too funny, I guess.
Oh, no.
No. So my older sister is like 16 months older than me. And so my parents kind of raised us together. So I was always like, we were always very competitive, and like we were like potty training. I wanted to be potty trained for like all that stuff. So by the time
Such a funny image.
by the time I was in kindergarten, I had already like learned everything from kindergarten, but just like copying her.
Oh, okay.
So I was in it, and then they let me skip to first grade, and then I got there, and everyone was like, "Why is this baby in this class?" One kid called me Zavior Phillips. which is way too clever for a first grader. That's crazy. You make a diaper pun on my name? So,
That is wild.
it's crazy. His name is Jermaine, and I don't know where he is, but...
Is that when you were like, I want to do comedy? Like, that was awesome.
Yeah, I was like, wait, how do I get like that guy? It's like, do you have any notes for me, man? I'm really trying to do mics and... that was definitely my biggest like bullying in first grade, because he also, I didn't have any friends, but he also was the only person who would talk to me. But I was so young that I didn't realize that was because he was being mean to me. So I was like, he's my only friend in this class.
Oh.
And then one time I was in the computer lab. He triple dog dared me to pull my pants down.
Why is he obsessed with your pants?
I don't know, but he's gonna quit it. Jermaine, if you're out there, why did you care so much about my pants? I pulled down my pants, and then my teacher heard about it, and my teacher like stormed over and dragged me to the principal's office. I had to call my dad. Oh. My punishment for pulling down my pants in the computer lab was that my father shaved my head.
Oh my God.
So actually, maybe my parents aren't perfect. That's the worst thing I think you can do to
How
someone.
is that comparable to what happened? Because you were
they put you in the military at
you
first
were in
grade.
but technically kindergarten age.
Yeah, I was like 5. Yes. Which normal to pull your pants down at 5 years old.
Yeah. Kids go outside and pee in the yard and just pull their pants down and pee.
I still do. and he shaves my head every time he catches me.
So that was trauma number 2, getting your head shaved.
Yeah, well, it's because he was just like, you can't. I think there also was other stuff. Like I was acting out a little bit in like church and like the youth stuff. Like I think I also would pull my pants down. Listen. I was a creep as a little kid. Always pulling my pants on. And so he was like, this needs to stop. And really I didn't really have any valuables, but I really loved my hair.
Oh
like
my
I used to
God.
have like an afro. And so he shaved my head.
That
and
hurts
then,
my heart.
No, I know. And then I went to school the next day. I wept while he did it. It was so bad.
This is biblical.
No, truly, I was Samson.
Yeah.
That was the only power I had. And then I went to school the next day. I remember I was wearing a hat, and then I walked in, and like at the front door, like one of the teachers was like, "Hey, take off your hat." And I was like, "Yeah." And then like kept it on. I was like, "Oh, sweet, I made it through." And then I got to my classroom. My teacher was like, "Zavior, take off your hat." And I was like, "I can't." And then she was like, "Take off your hat." My teacher also hated me. Her name was Miss Villarosa, which sounds like a villain in name. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways, I also don't know where she is, but
Bad bitch.
Miss Villarosa and Jermaine, you guys are on the list, dude.
And not for the comedy show.
Not for the comedy show. You can't get in. But
I'm on SNL and you're not.
But she told me to take off my hat. I remember I took off my hat and like melted underneath my desk, sobbed. I was so sad. Then eventually it was, it was fully bald.
Like he took
shaved
it
my
down.
head down to the bone. But there was some brain. It was.
Did he get a Bic?
He went straight up. The full. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
So you're sobbing under your desk.
So I'm sobbing under my desk. And then eventually we have recess and we're outside, so I'm allowed to put my hat back on. And I do. I'm so happy. I get outside. Jermaine steals my hat. And they play Monkey in the Middle, which feels like it's written. Like that's like TV show bullying, like giving a noogie. Like it's really that level. But and that was really not fun. But that was then I went to second grade. My second grade teacher was a lot better and she appreciated me.
It's wild that like first grade just sounds so young, but to you to remember like the details you remember sound like it just happened last year.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's fresh.
If you've ever been bullied, you'd remember the details.
I've been bullied, babe.
Same. But I'm saying, like, you remember it all. It sticks. Like, years later, it sticks.
Yeah.
But first grade just seems so young. You're like 5, right?
Yeah.
Damn.
That's when I was like first getting into, and that was hard because I was also like, I was like, at first everyone's like, oh, you're so smart, you're skipping up to this grade, and then immediately I get there and everyone's like, we hate you. Why are you here? You're a baby. And so that was fair. I was literally a baby. But and then just over there was, I guess, a little bit of that over the years, but then eventually I think it kind of evened out. And we moved to the next year's in second grade, and then we moved in the middle of that school year, we moved to Tennessee. We were in New Jersey at the time.
Oh.
So that explains it.
Yeah. Is that when you were saying that other people who might have lived your life may have seen it from a different perspective, but since you're an optimist, is that the kind of stuff that you were talking about?
I think, yeah, I think for whatever reason, like, am not one to like hold on to grudges or really like use any, like, I'm like, that taught me a lesson. Like, I didn't pull my pants down after that. Like, ultimately I did behave better after that. And, I'm like, that happened to me and I can't, change that. So, yeah.
And your dad, go ahead.
Well, what was coming to mind is like, there's things, resilience factors, like determines like how something's gonna like stick with you and cause things. And it sounds like you had a lot of resilience within your family.
Yeah.
That would create like, if you were an only child and you weren't connected with your parents and that happened, you could have experienced that way differently.
Yeah.
And it stuck with you more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, I think,
just
my
pointing
parents,
that out. Seems like you had that.
For sure. Like, I mean, I think my parents also were incredibly supportive, like through that whole process. And because obviously like skipping a grade is like, they're like, oh, he's really smart. Like they were like really like supportive of that and like wanted me to get and, move to Tennessee and start going to like magnet schools and all this stuff. So they were always like really supportive of like, I guess I knew early on that the reason I was bullied was because I was put in this situation because of this thing that I had, because I like was smart enough to even be in that position in the first place.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Kids do not like success.
yeah.
They don't like someone being outside of the fold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have something I want.
Adults are like that too.
That's so true.
It's sad.
I guess it's humans.
Oh shit.
Humans don't like things that are different from them. You just discovered racism. I'm just putting this together, but
Is that what that is?
wait.
We gotta do something.
I don't know if I've heard about the world before 1965, but it's not good. It's not good.
You talk in your comedy. You talk about you're so light on stage, but some of your jokes are like politics.
Yeah, yeah.
And like,
I was going to ask, like, what is your comedy kind of work around?
Yeah. I mean, I like being a little, like that's kind of like the energy that like, I love saying something that's like, wait.
Amber does that too.
Yeah. Because I think like I have, beliefs and I have, opinions about things and like politics and race and just things about the world. But I also valued so much like bringing people into a conversation about it more than just like starting an argument,
preaching it.
Yeah.
And like preaching. And so I feel like being like lighthearted comedy is a better way to start those types of conversations. And I think a lot of that is due to like the fact that I grew up.
Sorry,
I know. I really know. That's so funny. Listen.
I tried not to.
I know. I was like, I'm going to keep going. And I saw you move out of your appropriate. And I was like, we all heard it.
I just think a lot of that is doo doo.
And I do. I think racism is doo-doo. That's my take. I was like, listen, we'll be mature, Xavier. Not everything's a bit. Turns out. No, I mean, I think, like growing up in the South and growing up around a lot of people who have different opinions than I do, I think shaped that because I still had to coexist. Like now in LA and going to school in Chicago and spending a lot of time in New York, like I've met a lot of people who have never really met people who disagreed with them. And that comes up in conversation. You can tell in our conversations about like politics and things that like, oh, you don't actually understand why people feel that way. But for me, I'm like, even though I don't agree with it, I still can understand it. And I think that's a huge benefit to that conversation. And so I think in a lot of my comedy, I try to kind of point out, like I have a bit about like comparing racism and like people who are into astrology and how they're both like judging people off something that they can't control and stuff. And obviously I don't believe those are actually the same things because astrology is worse. But Duh. But you know, like it is kind of those type of things where I'm like, okay, but we all are judging other people for things, and we can at least, if I can use some lighthearted comedy to bring people into this conversation of like, oh, this other person you think is entirely different from you, maybe has a little more similarities than you, and we can both laugh about that, then I feel like that's a benefit. That's a positive that I'm bringing to it.
Yeah.
And I also feel like, because I majored in public policy in college and thought that was going to be like the world I was going to go into. And so I think that's another way that I justify not like working at a nonprofit and like doing something good in the world and instead of doing stand-up comedy, is that I'm like, well, at least if I can like use that platform to like, which seems like whatever, cheesy or whatever, but legitimately, you know, I do want to use my platform to, you know, talk about things like that and like bring people a little bit to the conversation about how maybe we are kind of similar and maybe, you know, these things that we think are so serious and there's these stark lines are a little more blurred.
That is dope. How do you feel doing that kind of comedy in New York compared to here, compared to like Chicago?
Yeah. It is funny.
Because the audiences are...
The audiences are different. It is funny because like it's obviously people will laugh differently if you're making fun of them versus if you're like making fun of like the other side. Yeah. And so like they'll like sometimes audiences will laugh at like different parts or they'll laugh harder at different things. And sometimes I'm like, do you get what I'm saying? Sometimes in Tennessee I'm like, do you get this irony? I don't know if you see the satire in this bit right here. Because they're laughing like, they are like that. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if you get this. But, it's very true. But I mean, no, I think that has been like a challenge, but I think I've appreciated it and it's made me a better comic having to, because I do like come to Nashville enough that I like do all of my material like in like LA and Nashville all the time. And it's forced me to really like sharpen the jokes where it's not like, okay, this will kill in LA, but like, you know, Nashville will hate this. Because if I'm able to tell a joke that works in both places, then that means I am accomplishing my goal. And that means there is like truth behind what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's really cool. I honestly, and this is just what I've been noticing recently. I feel like liberals are becoming so liberal they're conservative. You know what I'm saying? Like
more.
Big cities will be like someone will talk about, like I'll talk about my upbringing being poor or whatever, and they'll be like, oh, you really can't say that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I was.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Do you find that at all where they get a little weird about certain topics?
It is, yeah. Like sometimes in certain like progressive audiences, like liberal audiences, like when I talk about race, they get a little, because the thought of talking about race, because it's a, you know, if it's a Euro, I did a show like went in like Brooklyn, and it's like a bunch of white people in Brooklyn are like, you can't actually say that. And I'm like, one, I can. Literally is my experience.
You can just listen.
Yes. But they like feel weird like laughing about it.
Yeah.
Because in their mind, they're like, it's not a joke. It's not like, that's a serious. It's just like, hey, dude. I just made a pun about freaking Joe Biden, dude. You can laugh, dog.
That's what I'm talking. It's weird. It's,
I think people are, they feel like by laughing, that is them
agreeing that it's okay.
And which is fair in some situations, I think, but I think some people don't look at like the actual intention behind it. Like sometimes people will hear the setup and they know how they're going to feel before the punchline.
Yes.
Which does happen. I mean, that happens on both sides. I've done shows. I did a show in Phoenix and I opened with a Confederate flag joke. And I just said something about like, I don't even remember it was something about like, oh, I see a Confederate flag and it triggered me or something. And like, I even do like a pull at the end where like the joke ultimately is about how I'm like, hey, that's our thing. I'm from Tennessee. We're cultural appropriation, whatever. Like I'm like, the joke is that I'm like supporting the Confederate flag.
Right.
But like I said Confederate flag and a woman in the front row went, oh no. I was like, no. Because I like started a joke by saying, so there is like, I think that's the hard part about like trying to talk about these more difficult, and I'm like working on a bunch of stuff about like religion now and like trying to touch on my like religious upbringing and stuff. And I think trying to tread into those waters is more difficult when you really do want to, when my goal is to like get everyone to see that like there's a piece of everyone in there, you know, whether you were raised religious or not, like there's a piece for you in there. And I think, yeah, sometimes it's hard to tread into those waters, but I think ultimately that I'm more proud of those type of jokes than I am about jokes that are just like easy. They don't have any like thing but behind them.
Right.
Yeah.
The religious stuff is so interesting because it doesn't matter who you are, every human, when you bring up Jesus, has a reaction.
Yeah.
No one's ever like, oh, never heard of him. You know, like, so, and you're just now dipping into religious stuff?
I mean, I've done some religious jokes before, but I think I'm currently in a position with like my material where I'm like trying to touch on like a lot of pieces of my identity. And that's a piece of my identity that I'm like trying to tap into more so. Like I have a lot of stuff about race and being biracial and stuff, and a lot of stuff about being from Tennessee and then going to school in Chicago, and like being a theater kid. But I think like, religion is another, religion is another kind of like pot that I really want to like dig in deep, because it is like such a core. And I love, even though like a lot of people, I think just think like when you're a comic, obviously you're silly and you're always doing bits and stuff. But I think I love also like really getting into like those conversations because it's so like fundamental and it's like so fun to just like talk about and just like, whoa, it's crazy. It's crazy. Are you like, you know what I mean?
I think starting like that is pretty good.
You guys ever think like, what the heck? That's
a good album name.
What the heck is up there? It's an hour of that. It's like an hour I'm taking all around. And it crushes, dude. The Midwest love it, dude.
I never thought about it like that.
What the heck is up there, dude?
What? You go ahead.
I was going to ask what your religious upbringing.
That's what I was going to ask.
Wow. Group mind. I was raised in the church, in the Christian church. We went to mostly non-denominational, so it was like, you know,
the fun
pastor wears
church.
flip-flops and kind of vibe. Ripped jeans are okay with our Lord. Yeah, we have a band and lights and stuff. Actually, my girlfriend, when she was in town, we passed by a mega church, and she was like, what all could possibly happen inside of there?
A lot.
She was like, what do they need all of that for? I was like, I guess that's fair. I never even noticed.
Did you have like the lights going like this?
Same. Yeah. No, it's pretty crazy.
Like a concert.
Cool. I mean, yeah, I think a lot of my connection to my faith, or like the reason I felt so strongly about it growing up, I think like music actually was a huge, because music's a big part of my life. My father's a musician. So I think like going to church and having this, like most of my biggest moments of feeling my faith were like during worship and during those, you know, where it's like less just like hearing a human tell words to me. And I'm like able to like be like, well, actually those words mean different, and, you know, like break it kind of that way. But just like with music, this thing that is harder to put into words. I think that's a lot of what shaped my like, faith and upbringing in that.
Yeah.
How are you, like, what have you been talking about in jokes? Like that you're, like what are you talking about? That you're still religious, or like what's the...
Yeah, I'm trying to like, I think, figure out, I wouldn't say I'm religious. Like, oh, it's so obvious. I'm spiritual.
But
like in the sense of like, you know, obviously my upbringing in the church shaped so much of my idea of faith and spirituality and all that stuff. But I think like for me, it's a much more personal journey. And I think a lot of times religion inherently to appease a big group has to generalize a lot of things. And so there would be times in the church where I wouldn't necessarily agree with something because it didn't speak to my specific existence or perspective or something. But when I'm just like by myself thinking about spirituality and breaking it down, like then I can, you know, then it makes more sense to me. And so, yeah, I've been like trying to figure out how I feel about it now and how I felt about it then. Because I always have been like, was kind of like skeptical in the church. And I have a bit about like working on a bit about how I was like skeptical about like God, but there was a time where didn't believe in God, but I did believe in Santa Claus. So I was like breaking that down. I was like, this guy's fake, but a fat man needs to come down the chimney that we don't even have in our house to bring me toys. So it's like that kind of stuff of like, as a kid coming into that knowledge and trying to process this, and like you're being told all these things from an adult. And like when I did find what I felt to be like discrepancies in what I was being told by these adults, like how I trust that information and how I really feel about those things.
What took you from wanting to do public policy into wanting to do comedy?
Well, I always did a good bit of comedy. In high school in Murfreesboro, I started a satirical school news show. So I'm very familiar kind of with this setup. We had like our morning announcements, but then I would do a weekly like weekend update version.
Fun.
Which was very fun. I mean, I was like 15.
Yeah,
so
but you started that?
No, yes. Yeah. No,
That's
it was
cool.
it was
fun.
great. People still will like bring it up. My principal, anytime I see him, because my little brother goes to that school now, and I'll like go to like a soccer game and he'll be like, Zavior, you want to do, it was called Mag Swag News. And he was like, you want to do a Mag Swag News and send it over to us? And
That
like,
is so-
I don't think. At 25, I want to
Be performing in high
do
school.
morning announcements.
That's your bread and butter. You just
Yeah, I killed it, to be honest. I did that for like 2 years.
It's like
and
open
then,
mic every week.
Yeah,
No, it truly
truly.
was. It actually
be
was awesome.
dope.
I really felt like, I was like, I'm freaking Jon Stewart, dude. I'm killing it. There was a time where they changed some sort of like policy around like our senior thesis things, or maybe it was prom or something. And I like felt upset about it, and I did like a satirical like takedown of it, and people were like, "Yeah, like Xavier's fighting the man," and I was like, "This feels
I have
thick."
power.
I was like really taking it to him. It was awesome.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. But then I, went off to college and was like, okay, but I'm actually going to do something with my freaking life. but was still doing like improv and sketch and writing short films and stuff on the side. And then, very long story, but my mother ran for Congress. And boring. And
No, there's just layer after layer. I love
my
it.
mother, she was like a teacher, and then just kind of like,
I'll run for Congress.
yeah, well, like people in the community were like, hey, we think maybe you could do it. Like she was just involved in the community and stuff. And so, yeah, she ran for Congress. I worked on the campaign. So I was 19 and I was the field director on a congressional campaign.
What does that mean?
That means I was in charge of all the volunteers and like the field campaign. So it's 16 counties. So I was in charge of like hundreds of volunteers and like all the door knocking. I did a lot of the messaging and like some speech writing and stuff. Like I was,
Oh.
yeah. No, I was in it. I
At
was in it.
16?
No, I was 19.
Oh,
I
at
was
19. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
No, it was crazy. It was very cool and positive in many ways, but I also was like, oh, I don't want to work in politics. Oh, let me try stand-up comedy, actually. So that was, I think just because I like did that, and it was like a lot. It also was obviously a lot being in the same household as someone running for Congress.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't just like go, stop working. She could come into my room and tell me to go work. So it was a little personal, but yeah, I think that experience, I was just like, and I realized that even like as I was door knocking and talking to a lot of people, like I was saying about like using comedy to start these conversations versus like starting these arguments, I realized I was using comedy at the door to even like, I was like knocking on, I'd walk up to these doors and based on the flags and the things they were flying, we weren't seeing eye to eye. But we'd have a conversation. By the end, we'd be like, it'd be a good conversation. I don't know if I won their vote, but like, it'd be a good conversation. And there was a lot of comedy and stuff in that environment that I used, as someone who sees differently, but still wants to like coexist and, bring people into that.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
So cool.
And so, yeah.
What made you say politics isn't it, though, with that experience?
I think it was just seeing a little peek behind the curtain of like the bigger kind of machine of politics. Because when it was like just a grassroots campaign, it was like, okay, this is awesome. Truly like a teacher who cares so much about people and will go out there. And that was the heart of it and was her heart like throughout the whole thing. But I think the more successful it got and the more like big the race became, then people, because she like won the primary and stuff. So then more money started coming in and more consultants wanting to kind of like have their say on what the best way to run the campaign was. And again, I still think she still ran the campaign like with her intentions and heart throughout the whole thing. But it was seeing these people trying to just like small things about like how they felt she should be prioritizing her time and how like calling rich donors is ultimately the way to win an election versus going and knocking on people's doors. Like that's almost like seen as like a waste of time for like real like consultant people. Just because in terms of you don't have the time to knock on, 100,000 people's doors. But if you call a bunch of rich people, they'll give you thousands of dollars to be on TV. Whoa. And that's how you get. So it's like just seeing stuff like that and realizing like, okay, even if she did win, then she's going to have to go to Washington and there's going to be even more people with more power and more money trying to, tell her what to do. And just seeing like that side of politics was not like I just want to do good for people and like make people happy because I care about my community was not the energy that I was getting from politics. And so now I try to bring that into like my comedy.
Love.
That's such a good story.
It really is so fucking cool.
It is.
It is funny
and
though
you're
because
25?
I'm 25. Yeah.
Bravo.
Yeah,
Thank
truly.
you. But it is funny because I'm like, everyone's like, why do you get in politics? I'm like, well, my mom ran for Congress and that ruined it for me. But yeah.
Do you ever think you want to do like write for like the Daily Show type?
I think I would do that. I definitely am less plugged in, I think, than I used to be. But I could see that being a route. Like, yeah, I mean, with like the show I did in high school and like public policy background, I think that together obviously would suit me well for something like that. I think also I did write for I wrote for a Netflix show that was like a workplace comedy about the shadow government and like conspiracy theories and stuff.
Fun.
That seems right up your alley.
No, exactly. I legitimately am like, my mother running for Congress and being like from like the South where I'm like, I know some conspiracy theories. Like that for sure helped me get the job at that place. So it's still.
What is
in
that
there.
show?
It's called Inside Job.
Oh, I haven't seen that, but I've seen that on there.
Yeah.
Do you still write for that?
No, it got canceled because you saw it but you didn't see it.
Yeah, that would be my fault.
Yeah, they said we were missing one person. If one more person had watched it,
damn it,
we
Amber.
would have paid you $1 million. No. Yeah. So, anyways, how much am I making for this?
we pay in hugs.
Okay. Just pass it on to your landlord. I was told to give you this.
And I was told to give you this. It's an eviction notice. This is the third month you've tried to pay me with hugs. You can't keep doing this.
And they're side hugs, man. Like at least do like a full. And you're like, so your dad. I know we're wrapping up, but I just want to. Your dad was a musician.
Yeah.
So I'm sure, like, when you decided to go into comedy, like your family was like, cool, we already know artists, we support it.
Yeah.
Was that how it?
No, that was another huge thing is that they were immediately so, one, I think, like I was saying earlier, like they were so supportive of every extracurricular and like, so they were aware of like that comedy was a big thing and that was a realm in which I was getting a lot of support and validation and stuff. Nice. So they already knew that and were aware of that. And then, yeah, my dad has lived the like artist life of like trying to build that, fan base and trying to make those connections and in this like creative, unstable system. And so he's always been so supportive of the comedy and just going for it. I mean, I think all of my siblings, it is cool now seeing, because my little brother's about to graduate high school and it's funny seeing us like all become like individual people. It's crazy. Like I'm doing like comedy and like doing stuff. My older sister is like a fitness trainer and like physical therapist, all this stuff. And my little sister now is gonna like works with like interior architecture and stuff. My little brother is like now figuring out what he wants to do. My oldest brother, he's like working for these companies, and so it's like all of these. It's crazy seeing us all go into, our own, become our own people. Yeah.
You're all so wonderful.
No, yeah, they're the best.
They roll up every time he's at Zany's.
That's true.
They're
Really?
just a giant ball of sunshine that disperses into other, like, just you guys standing over there, people will be standing around and being like, oh, who are those people? I like those people.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Everybody loves your mom. What did you say? Oh, they were at the live recording.
Wow.
In Chicago?
No,
In Nashville?
In Nashville.
Oh, yay.
No, they're supporters.
Angels.
They are out there. My grandma lives in the Bay Area, but a lot of our family obviously lives in Nashville now, so she'll come out here for like a few weeks at a time. But like she lives in the Bay Area and will like fly down to LA to see a show every now and then, just because she's like, oh, I want to.
Your grandma will?
Yeah, my great grandmother came down to a show. She had never seen me do stand up. She's 90 years old.
She walked there.
We thought she was lost for 5 days, but she pulled up to the Hollywood Improv. So that front row is crazy. No, but my family is so supportive. It's the best thing in the world. It's so helpful. It's like obviously such a difficult career to undergo, and having that support and like stability is so nice.
And to have a mom that's a financial advisor as a creative person.
That's true.
Ooh,
That's real.
Yeah.
That's great right there.
Very real. And every time I have to tell both my mother and my financial advisor, because they're the same person, that I don't have any money. So he's like, oh.
You have to tell your dad and your mom's boyfriend.
It is funny because my parents actually have a rule where if you're not married, you're not allowed to like stay in the same room with your sibling. And so we went on vacation recently. We were like, I don't think you guys actually can share a bed. Oh, you and your boyfriend?
We get the master.
Yeah. And it's weird though. Yeah, we're like all like dating.
They live in separate houses.
Well, my mother moved back in.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, so everybody lives together again.
Yes.
That's fun.
It's crazy. That was a whole crazy. Just in terms of like the logistics of getting everything into one. My father also like now records out of the house. So he was a bachelor, so he would just set up his drums in the living room. And that hasn't changed. So now at home, we don't have a living room. We just have, you walk into the house, the first thing you see is just a drum set in the main space where you would live and exist. So it's awesome.
I feel like mom's just biding her time.
Yeah.
So we're going to move that drum set.
Yeah, it's got to happen. It's got to happen.
Well, you love LA, right? You're
Yes.
enjoying yourself. You do comedy full time?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
I mean, right now it's like the industry is in such a weird place. So it's like picking up like different gigs
Odds
and I'll
and
like
ends, yeah.
act in this small thing or I'll write in for this small thing and just like, here and there working on stuff.
But you're doing you're an artist full time. Yeah, that's freaking dope.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to give props to you. Like the last time he just headlined Zanies and the whole lineup was women besides him.
That's true. Wow. Wait, I was raised in a household with women. I do have sisters now that I think
Yeah.
about it. All full circle.
It was funny though. You got up there and you were like, I did not realize that all of the women were white.
And nobody can be perfect. One at a time, guys. Can I solve one problem at a time? All right. No, it is crazy. I went to like make a poster and I was like, this doesn't look good. I can't put this out there. I look like a pimp. This is not good, dude. It was crazy.
You're just in the middle.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't have put the cane in the picture. That was on me. But it was good. But everyone killed. Everyone after the show was like, Amber Audrey is the funniest human alive, which is true. So, and I was like, well, this actually was my show. But could have saved that.
Yeah, cool. That's love that. It was so fun, man. Oh, your shows are always fun.
Thank you.
You are fun. You're such a great comic. You're such a great person. I enjoy you and your family, truly. And I think I'm going to be hitting your sister up about being worked out by her.
That was a weird way to phrase that.
No, everyone says that.
I'd actually appreciate if you could rephrase that.
It's my sister. Okay.
You're actually sick for that.
Or she takes clients, right?
Yes. She's an online physical like trainer. She does personal training and like helps with like diets and all this just general helping mostly like women like
Right?
feel good in their bodies and stuff. She's incredible.
And she's so cool.
Yeah,
she's so
I know
nice.
She is.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Give us her info.
Yeah.
What is her Instagram name? It's Zoe Phillips. I don't know what her Instagram is called currently. Should I look it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Darcy
What is
will
it?
help.
Zoe India. It's Zoe India.
Ooh,
ZoeIndiya.
Oh, wow. You lost me on that last one. Hold on. Zoe
India.
ZoeIndiya.
Oh, beautiful.
That's her middle name. India.
Oh, yeah. I'm sold. I'm sold.
Yeah.
Okay. Hell yeah.
She's got abs, dude. It's
I want that.
disgusting. It's crazy. I'm like, how? That's so not fair.
I want someone to train me like an Olympic athlete, but I never go to the Olympics.
Yeah.
You know?
she could. She's actually really. We do like family like workouts, and she will like. Of
course you do.
Are the Power Rangers, and she will like lead us on. And she's actually really good at like. Every time I'm like, okay, I'm about to die, and then she's like, yeah, that was the last set. Like she's really good at like getting you like
to the brink.
You've worked really hard. You feel like you've really worked at the end of her workouts.
Okay.
So highly recommend.
I'm already giving up.
But okay. Like, I don't think I wanted to work that hard.
Do you know any artists that could paint abs on me? Anybody in your family an artist? Do you have a different question than we usually like to ask?
No, I liked that one.
Oh,
I
ask
did
it.
last time.
Yeah, go ahead. I like that one too.
I'll think of different ones though if you want to.
No, that one's
But
good.
the one we asked a question at the end and we came up with a new one last week.
Mm-hmm.
What is your best advice you've ever received?
The best advice I've ever received.
Yeah.
That's so. Anytime I'm asked a question, I can't think. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And sometimes everyone's like, "Who are your comedy inspirations?" I'm like, I can't think of a single comic.
Okay. Well, I
ever
also
existed.
want to ask the worst advice. So if that's easier.
I'll answer the worst advice. I don't know if this is actually truly the worst advice, but I will say it.
Thank you.
Because you're making me. You're gonna freaking make me answer this.
What is some bad advice you've got?
Well, it's a specific example, but I'll generalize it. I remember when I was going out to Hollywood, and a lot of people were talking about like representation and getting representation, and I do have representation, like managers and agents and stuff, and I love them and love working with them. But a lot of people, their advice initially was like, really wait to get that, because then you're gonna have to like pay them 20%. You're gonna like have to whatever. But I've gotten so many opportunities because I've had them, and it's been so worth it to just have other people shouting me out and talking about me around town. And I think to generalize that, like I think closing yourself off, like the people who like love just like working in silence and I'm not gonna like collaborate or like work with other people. I mean, if that works for you, then that works for you. But for me, I've always found that I've had the most success, both in terms of like tangible success, but also just like even like emotional success. I've felt more fulfilled when I bring other people in and I like collaborate and work with other people more.
Yeah.
Love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell everybody where they can find you?
Sure. You can find me on Instagram at Zavior Phillips, Zavior Phillips. And then I think, mostly Instagram. I post on TikTok every now and then at Zavior.com.
Love that.
And I think, Venmo, Zavior Phillips, Cash App. I have that as well. Zelle. So hit me up at all of those places, but follow me as well on Instagram.
Love it. Thank you so much for doing
Thank
this.
you so much for having me.
Yeah,
This
thank you.
This has been incredible.
It's lovely.
You're wonderful.
I've loved all of this.
Thank you for listening to I'm Fine, It's Fine podcast. My name is Amber Autry. I'm a comedian based here in Nashville and internationally touring. You can find me on all platforms at Amber Autry Comedy.
And I am Melanie Reese. I'm a trauma therapist here in Nashville. You can find me across all platforms at Trauma Therapy Nashville.
We really appreciate you listening so much. And if you want to give a little extra for free, make sure you're liking, subscribing, rating, reviewing, sharing with your friends, talking about it to literally everyone you see, because it helps so much. And we're so grateful for the extra effort.
And if you like what you're hearing and you want some bonus material, that includes interviews with other practitioners and all the juicy stuff that Amber and I talk about that doesn't go into the normal podcast. We'd love to have you subscribe. You can find the link in our bio, and $5 a month, you can do it.